If summer heat and activity left your lawn with bare patches and thin spots, then get Scott's Turf Builder Grass Seed. Fall's cool air and warm soil make it the best time to grow grass. Use Turf Builder Grass Seed to grow thicker, greener grass, guaranteed. It contains Scott's exclusive Water Smart Plus coating that absorbs 2 times more water than uncoated seeds. Feeds to jumpstart growth and protect seedlings against disease. And Scott's is the official lawn care company of Major League Baseball. Fall's the best time to grow seed and repair your yard. Pick up a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Grass Seed today. This is the Scott's Yard.
It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
And those jokes are over. And make it clear, those are over. He took the worst situation I've seen a player be in its own way in a long time and turned it into a legendary game. That game is the stuff of legend now. That'll be remembered as the Strasburg game forever, especially if they win tonight.
They win, right.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Got some basketball on the way. Ty Lue, coach of the Cavaliers, will join us, but obviously baseball at center stage right now. Golic is down with the Indians losing second. It's devastating. I don't have another word for it. Second consecutive year, you have 3 put-away games. Whatever the opposite of an elimination game is, a chance to close out a series, closeout games. And can't get it done last year in the World Series against the Cubs, and now can't get it done
Guys are going to be
against the Yankees.
Sick cleaning out their lockers today in the clubhouse because the expectation was so much higher, especially when you're up 2-0. And then all of a sudden you're walking in today bewildered going, oh, my God, my offseason started. That is a hard, cold slap of reality to the face right now for them. So. But congrats to the Yankees. They got it done. I mean, Didi Gregorius, what he has done, who tweeted that earlier? They finally have a shortstop that does something in the clutch.
Yeah, Jonah Carey. It's a good line.
It is a good line.
It's a seamless transition they've made from the great Derek Jeter to this kid who's really good. And obviously, Judge is the one who gets the most attention. He struck out 16 times in 24 at-bats in this series. But that's not remembered. And what else isn't remembered? I used the analogy earlier this morning. Like there are some times when you might get arrested for something or whatever it is, and the judge says if you stay out of trouble for 2 years, it's stricken from your record. It's as though it never happened. And that's what Friday night became. That's what Friday night becomes from now until the end of time for Joe Girardi. His players picked him up. You could sense a genuineness from the players that they wanted to do that for Joe. Yeah. That would have been a terrible way for him to go out as the manager of the Yankees, if indeed this is his last year. And now maybe it won't be with them winning this. We'll see. But it just would have been a shame for a guy who's done a very good job for them for a long time to sort of be run out of town on a rail based on one bad night.
Agreed. I think it was a great byproduct of it is to say, we love Joe. We wanted to do this for Joe. I don't think it motivated them anymore. It's not like they weren't trying to win the series anyway.
Of course.
But what a great thing for it to happen to say we feel now we've vindicated Joe Girardi.
I do also wonder sometimes about the psychology of stuff. And, you would know better than I. But here's the deal. There was, I think, a belief that the Yankees, because they are so young and they're sort of a year ahead of schedule, that maybe once they won the wild card game, that they were kind of playing with house money.
Kind of gravy now, yeah.
They weren't expected to beat Cleveland. And in game 1, they got really, dominated by Trevor Bauer. Then game 2, the combination of they take out Corey Kluber, they blow a 5-run lead, and their manager is getting excoriated everywhere. I wonder if psychologically that did sort of shift the paradigm a little bit from, if we win, it's fabulous. If we lose, it was still a good year, to A, we can beat these guys, right. And B, let's do this thing for Joe. Let's again, does it mean you play harder? No, but is there a psychological shift?
The mentality of it all, even though you were down 0-2 and it was all against you, the way it happened, we had this game 1, we got to their ace, and now our manager, who we really like, is just getting destroyed everywhere. Yeah, is it all of a sudden going to make you play better? I don't know if it's going to do that. But from the mental side of it, which could, in fact, make you play better, instead of if that was a normal game that they just lost, no Joe Girardi gaff or anything, and Kluber shut them down for whatever reason, and they were down 0-2, maybe going to that third game, be like, well, we were supposed to really be here anyway. Let's go out there and try and be as competitive as we can. And, honey, go ahead and make those, reservations for our trip. We're going to be on the road soon.
I think you're exactly right. Yeah. I mean, as ridiculous as this sounds, I think if they had lost game 2, 3-0, they would not have won the series. But the series shifted psychologically in so many ways on that night. And again, I'll say it, I'm hopelessly biased on this. I like Joe Girardi. So I'm just happy for him that whatever happens to them now, barring another circumstance like that, it won't be his fault. And I don't expect them to beat Houston, but I didn't expect them to beat Cleveland.
Right, I agree.
So who the heck knows?
You never know.
On the other side, Cubs and Nationals, I'll say it again, Strasburg that's an unbelievable story. I mean, unbelievable story. I can't remember anything that was exactly like that. The closest thing I could think of to it was the legendary Jay Cutler game where Cutler's playing in the NFC Championship game and he comes out. At the time, no one thinks he's that seriously hurt, and people are crushing him. And I mean, active players are on Twitter watching that game and crushing Jay Cutler's toughness. That was, and then as it turned out, he was seriously hurt.
Right.
That was the last time I can remember something like this where there was this much universal condemnation of a player for not giving it a go for his team. And so for Strasburg to turn it around from something that he was going to have a tough time living down to something where he now becomes the stuff of legend, that is one of the great turnarounds I've ever seen.
Listen, I agree, but let's even go past that and let's look to the team now. We've talked a lot about Strasburg, deservedly so. He was fantastic. But remember, not too long ago when Schwarber makes the error, Washington takes the lead, the Cubs have to come back at the end. They're down in this thing and come back. And here they are in a situation where Strasburg pitches 7. It's the 8th inning. Cubs are only down 1.
Correct.
Okay, Strasburg's out of the game. He dealt on us. Gang, we're only down 1. We got 2 at-bats to go here, all right? And then Michael Taylor puts it away in the top of the 8th. 2 outs. They're 1 out away from getting to the bottom of the 8th, and then if they bottom of the 9th, they have opportunities and only down 1 run at that time. And Taylor blasts a grand slam and says, this one's out of reach.
Yeah, with a hurricane force wind, not bad expression, with a gale force wind coming in from the outfield, he puts one in the basket, and that's the ball game. And so they go to Washington tonight. I'm told Ty Lue is ready to go. So quickly, I just want to mention one other thing for a fun Throwback Thursday today, in honor of the Cubs playing that huge game tonight. Pete Genesini, our first producer, sent me a picture of the 2 of us at Wrigley Field on opening day of 2000. So this was 3 months into our show, and I have it up on Instagram right now, at ESPN Greeny on Instagram. And the picture is just, when they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, that's understating it.
It really is. I look like I'm 320 pounds and hammered. You look like you're 10 years old.
It is the funniest.
Unbelievable.
It made me laugh so hard. I confirmed with Golic that he was okay with me posting it because you do look so ridiculous.
What do I care?
It is a classic picture. So we'll talk about that a little more on this Throwback Thursday. Again, it's on Instagram if you want to check it out, at ESPN Greeny. Meanwhile, we change gears here. A tough day in Cleveland yesterday.
Yes.
But the fans in Cleveland have a lot to be excited about because their Cavaliers should be as good as ever.
Yeah, and it was a nice calm offseason. Nothing really going on. It just really, slide right into a new year.
That's exactly right. Here's Ty Lue, the head coach of the Cavaliers. Ty, anything happened since last year's finals? You guys haven't heard much about your team. Everything been all right?
Yeah, everything's been good.
All kidding aside, when you're the coach, and there is this kind of stuff, and everything with Kyrie Irving that just blew up and became such an enormous spectacle, and all the questions and all of that, you're the coach. What is your role in all of that, and what was it like for you as all of that was swirling around your team during the summer?
Well, the situation where, our front office handled. You never want to lose a great player like Kyrie Irving, and it was tough, but, under the circumstances of talking to Dan Gilbert and Kobe Altman of, Kyrie wanted, he wanted out. I don't think it could have been a better trade, getting a guy like Isaiah Thomas who was, fifth in MVP vote getting. You get a tough guy in Jay Crowder who's a two-way player as far as shooting the basketball and can defend, players 1 through 4. We add Derrick Rose, we add Jeff Green, we get Calderon. So we get a lot of guys, but to trade, Kyrie to Boston and get the assets that we got with the players we got, and then the Brooklyn pick, I don't think you could have got any better guys than we got.
So before because I want to get into the players that you got, but just one more on the trade. Did you talk to Kyrie at all before this trade? Any kind of conversation at all about what was coming up?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I just wanted to see if you did or not. Now, players coming in. So when a player like a Brooks or a Rose comes in and a Dwayne Wade comes in, guys who have been in the league for a while, especially a guy like Dwayne Wade, take us into the conversation that you're having with these guys on what their role, guys that are used to being stars, and what their roles are going to be on these teams.
Well, the great thing about, Jeff Green and Derrick Rose and Crowder, D Wade, they came in with no ego, and that's what you need when you want to try to win a championship. You have to understand it's going to be about sacrifice, and people don't understand because Kyrie's gone, but Derrick Rose signed here thinking he was going to be Kyrie's backup. That's just how much he wanted to win, and that just shows you who he is as a person and as a player to be a former MVP and come here to Cleveland just to try to win and be a backup. But then after Kyrie left and acquiring Isaiah, who's not ready to start the season, now he becomes a starter. So, that just tells you a lot about him right there. I mean, he has no ego. I mean, comes into work every day. I mean, great to be around. So it's just great, to have a player of that caliber who's healthy. If you've seen any of our preseason games, like, he's been great. The addition of D Wade, just another guy who's been there, has been in the trenches, knows what it takes to win a championship. And he can pass the basketball, he can post up, he can get to the basket. So we got a lot of additions, and we're a little different from last year because we have guys now. We have 5 or 6 guys that we've added that can dribble, pass, and shoot and can make plays. So in that regard, we're a little different.
But for some of the guys that are a little older or have gone through injuries, all this mandates in the offseason about resting players and this and that, you are going to have to manage minutes, are you not? I mean, there is that to deal with, but the goal for you guys is to win a championship. So how does that come into play where kind of knowing what you may have to do during the regular season?
Well, it's all about, the players and how they feel, and we have a great medical staff here who understands the players. They monitor the players a lot. So we kind of just go off what they say and how they feel about the situation and kind of go from there. But, with the new rules in place, we're going to do our best to abide by those rules. And, Mr. Silver's done a great job of, trying to make sure the fans get what they pay for, try to make sure, the TV games are great like they're supposed to be. So by taking away the 4 and 5 nights and trying to cut back on the back-to-backs, he's really done a great job with that.
Ty Lue, head coach of the Cavaliers, with us. They play at the Magic tomorrow night. You'll see that game, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, their preseason finale on ESPN. And then the opener, the much-anticipated opener, which right away, boom, here comes Kyrie Irving back to Cleveland next Tuesday night. That'll be on TNT. And now we're hearing about LeBron. So what can you tell us about LeBron's ankle and his situation? Obviously, missing the rest of the preseason is one thing. If he's not ready for that huge first game against Kyrie, that would be something else entirely. How is he?
He was a little mad yesterday. He came in sore, wasn't able to practice. But he's going to be day-to-day, and I'm just trying to get him right for the first game. So, knowing LeBron, he's definitely not going to want to miss that first game. So he's going to do everything in his power to get back out there on the floor. And we're just glad we're able to have this many days off in between before our first game.
We had Brad Stevens on yesterday, and we were talking about how he would manage that from his side because there is that emotional return of Kyrie Irving to Cleveland, and we have a sense of what the building will be like. I got a Clevelander sitting next to me here, so I have a good sense of what that building will be like for him. How about for your side, to have him come back this quickly after everything that happened this summer? Do you expect that to be a night that is a little different from other games?
As far as what?
Well, just as far as the emotion of your players. I mean, there has been a lot of thought that LeBron was hurt by what happened with Kyrie. I'm sure a lot of the other players on the team will have different feelings about him in particular, and he's not coming back in February. He's coming back the very first game of the season. What is your expectation for his return?
Well, knowing Kyrie, he's going to be up for the challenge. Our team's going to be up for the challenge, too, and it's a bond that we had, the last 3 years of, winning the championship and making it to the NBA Finals 3 years in a row. So when you lose a key piece of that, it's tough. But, the way it happened, that's just kind of the sad part about all of it, just, the way it happened. Just the game alone, just one game, even though it's going to be a lot of hype and, that surrounds it, Boston versus the Cavs and, Kyrie's coming back. But it's just one game, and, they're going to get better throughout the course of the season. We're going to get better. So, I mean, it's just hype for TV, I guess.
I want to go back to the players. I'm always fascinated about whether it's if it's a different role for a player, how they handle it. You expect everybody to be professional in handling it. But Kevin Love now look as though moving to center and how he found out he's moving to center. Can you go through that and how that transition will be?
Well, when we made the trade, adding Jay Crowder, I just thought that, starting Jay at the 3 or the 4, whatever the toughest matchup is at that position, then that would give LeBron a chance to be on the back line and kind of quarterback that defense and talk and be able to use his instincts in the passing lanes and be the help guy because he's very smart and he's always going to be in the right spot. And it takes a lot of pressure off LeBron to have to guard, the best player every single night. So that was my thinking with that. And then, acquiring, D Rose and D Wade and, guys that, they're not great three-point shooters. So to give them spacing on the floor, with D Wade, D Rose, and Tristan, it would have been a little harder. So that was my thinking of, of bringing Tristan off the bench and moving Caleb up to 5. And that's kind of what I shared with all the other guys. And I think LeBron may have told them when they went to Santa Barbara on their little, players retreat right before the season. So it's something I've been talking about. And, Kevin knew whatever Tristan had already knew, but, as far as sitting down talking to Kevin about it, didn't get a chance to do that before. I guess he said LeBron told him in Santa Barbara, so. But it was all my idea.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you got a call after that and say from Kevin that said, "Hey, just talking to LeBron and he gave me a little bit of information." Did you get a call from him after that?
I was going back and forth, but that was my thought process. Over the course of the summer after the trade had happened. That's kind of how I visioned it, and just going back and forth on it. And then, once we got to training camp, I made my final decision, and I talked to Tristan, who was great about it. And, he's been a big part of everything we've done. And for him to be just, he was great with it. Like, I understand we need spacing. I just got to go for $6 million a year now. And, anything you need me to do, Coach, I'm here to do it for you. So it's tough having those kind of talks and conversations, but he handled it great.
Should be a fun year to watch it. Again, it'll start with a bang next Tuesday night with Kyrie Irving and the Celtics in town in Cleveland. Coach, we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Hope you had a great summer. We look forward to talking to you as the season gets started.
Thanks, Ty.
All right, thank you.
That's Ty Lue with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold.
Seems like we've been talking about chemistry, when LeBron first went to Miami with Dwayne and Bosh, how they were going to all work it out. They were kind of acquiescing one another until they realized where they're going to go. Durant going to Golden State, how that was all going to work out. And now LeBron back to Cleveland. Well, they won a championship. They keep going back to the finals. But, man, look at the start. Look at – you think there's going to need some time here? Love and he are the two starters, right? But Love's playing a different position.
Right.
Then you got Derrick Rose, you got Dwayne Wade because Isaiah's still on the shelf, so he won't be in. And then Rose will go as a backup. And then you have Jay Crowder.
Right.
So I mean, what a different starting lineup to try and of that, one guy who has been a starter is at a different position now. So you wonder about that process of those guys all being able to work together. And then when Isaiah Thomas jumps in to the mix as well. Listen, they're good problems to have. But still, nonetheless, there's some chemistry issues to work out.
How many good players?
Oh, yeah.
Have? I mean, I'm just writing because as you were saying it, I was writing it down. So Isaiah, we would assume, will assume the starting role that he will assume the starting role when he gets back in there and is healthy enough and in shape enough to do it. Assuming he gets to that, and I think every expectation
is he will
is that he is. But who am I forgetting? Their 8-man rotation in no particular order is Kevin Love, LeBron James, Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, J.R. Smith, and Tristan Thompson. Oh, and they still have Kyle Korver. They have so many players. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we'll see. And again, the city of Cleveland will need to pick me up here. We're Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I find myself thinking the Believeland thing, which your brother was so much in the middle of when he played on those Browns teams that lost on the drive and the fumble and everything else. If they don't win that title, if they don't beat Golden State, which is, 2 years ago, in a thrilling Game 7 on the road, if that game goes one possession in the other direction, the city of Cleveland still doesn't have a championship since the 60s. And think how different the conversation would be right now about the Indians losing in Game 7 last year and the Indians losing last night.
Go back to Indians losing in 97. you know, in Game 7 as well, correct?
Of course, yeah.
And
when
then
they had the lead and their closer on the mound in Game 7.
And then the chances for LeBron and the Cavs, I know what you're saying, say they didn't win it, and then Cleveland, the Indians last year, and then this year. Yeah, it would be brutal. It would be every joke still available out there would be said about Cleveland. It's still about that one championship changed all that, but there's still, man, that frustration level. But it's kind of a good thing of we're right there. You know, okay, we didn't get it this year. Yeah, we have in our hip pocket a championship, you know, in basketball. Sure. So that's cool. And we think we still have the talent to get there. Indians fans are thinking about their team.
By the way, the announcement, speaking of Cleveland, was made yesterday during our show, so you didn't get a chance to comment on it, that the Browns are going to make another quarterback change. They're going to start Kevin Hogan this week, who was much more effective against the Jets in the second half last week than Deshaun Kaiser was in the first half. He's the 28th different starting quarterback they've had since they came back to Cleveland. What is your reaction?
Listen, 50% completion or just a hair under, 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
For Kaiser.
I mean, you know, the coaches are seeing way more than we are because of practice and obviously games as well. May just need to take a seat for a bit. I mean, there's putting someone on the field to learn from mistakes and someone who's just not doing enough, and it's just not giving your team enough of a chance. Because we talked about, especially last year with the Browns, even though they had a bad record, man, they were competing in games, right? So Deshaun is struggling right now, no doubt about it. So I don't know how permanent this is, if it's take a breath moment, let Hogan go out there and play for a little bit, but it certainly has been very, you know, he's been a rookie quarterback. Now, rookie quarterbacks have played much better this, and rookie quarterbacks have played as bad at this or worse. So it's just where he is right now.
A really bad team.
He is.
So I don't know.
Well, the thought process is leave him out there and let him work through all of it. But, you know, if he's really struggling really poorly, maybe it's time to step back for a little bit. I do think you'll see him on the field again this year.
So do I, because they have to make a decision.
Yeah, they do.
Is he their quarterback or not? Because they will, barring something really unforeseeable, they're going to be in the lottery for these big quarterbacks at the end of the year. They got to decide if they want one.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Yeah, there's a good football game tonight, too, kicking off this NFL weekend with Philadelphia at Carolina. Both those teams 4-1, both quarterbacks playing great early this season in Carson Wentz and Cam Newton. You having a little issue there with the audio?
I am. Can't hear. That's okay. I mean, I hear you.
Are you okay?
Sitting. I can hear you, but when we play sound, I will not be able to hear.
Okay, well, then let's do that, and then I'll tell you what they
tell
said
me
afterwards.
What they say.
Let's start.
This is going to be the most sound played ever in a segment, just so Greeny can leave me out of it.
Golic, what we have first is Steven Strasburg. This is, again, a story unlike practically anything we've seen in a really long time, where a guy goes from being the ultimate punching bag to giving you one of those legendary performances that will be talked about for a really long time. And then afterwards, we'll play this. You'll hear the question as to whether he felt he had anything to prove, and his defiance, I think he earned completely.
Steven, given all the drama of the past 24 hours, did you feel you had something to prove in this game, in this start tonight?
Not to you guys, no. You guys create the drama, but I know, like I said earlier, I have faith in every other guy in this clubhouse, and I know the coaching staff feels the same. So we're in it together, and when one guy goes down, you got to trust that the other guy's going to pick up the slack.
Now, I don't have any problem with him saying that, even though it's ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. If you're Strasburg,
right,
and you just delivered that performance after all of the criticism that you were hearing over the previous 24 hours, then you are well within your rights to fire back.
Yes.
But, Mike, I don't know if you were able to actually hear the words he used or not, as you got to when he said, well, you guys created all the drama. Well, time out.
Yeah.
Hold on a second there. I get that frequently those of us in the media, we will overstate things, we will overreact to things, we blow up and hyperbolize, and I totally get that we are guilty as charged. But in this particular case, if I were to try and make a defense of us, if I'm Clarence Darrow and I'm defending the media in a court of law, I would say your manager sat there and said, we wanted to give you the ball, but you're under the weather, and then talked about mold and air conditioning before an elimination game when you are the ace. You were lights out in the first game. You've given up 0 runs in 7 of your last 8 starts, and you're a little bit under the weather, and there's mold and there's air conditioning, whatever else it is. That's not the media creating
No, they're not
drama.
making that up. The media is not making that up. Those were the facts that were out there. Your manager presented those facts, and then everybody can base an opinion on what they think off of those facts. Some, I'm sure, may say, well, if he doesn't feel good, he doesn't feel good. Others, and you said you leaned on the Teixeiras of the world and the Rosses of the world, guys who have been in clubhouses or athletes who have been in locker rooms, on what their thought might be. And what their thought was exactly what my thought was. Well, wait a minute. You're not even going to give it are you going to give it a go here? I mean, just even if you can't do it, okay, but give it a shot. This is it. This is our season. You know, sometimes you perform better. I said before, the legendary flu game of Jordan, I played in the House of Pain game when I was with the Eagles in Houston against the Oilers. We knocked out a lot of their guys. Seth Joyner may have had the best game I've ever seen him have. He was sick as a dog before that game. Not to say that everybody could do that, right? Okay, there are some people that are going to be sick and they won't be able to perform well. But the thought process was, wait a minute, you took a jog, you were wheezing a little bit and said you don't think you can go. I mean, sorry, that was said out there, you know, by your manager. That's a report out there. So people are going to discuss that. So then I always love that at the end. And you're right. The media does embellish things at time without question going for the headline. But he got the chance there to take his shot afterward, and he did. And when you get 12 strikeouts, you can. You can. But I'm with you. I disagree with him going after saying it was just created by the media.
Yeah, again, I don't have a problem with him saying it, but it's inaccurate.
Yeah,
I mean, it's completely wrong and unfair. And then you get yourself a Game 5 tonight. By the way, I just got sent the TV ratings. The TV ratings for the baseball are really good. Here's yesterday's rating for Nationals Cubs on TBS, which is a late afternoon game.
Yeah, I was going to say, certainly not a primetime game.
It did a 3.1 rating. The comparable game last year was Nationals-Dodgers, and that did a 1.9.
Same time? Same time frame?
5 to 8 p.m. Yeah,
okay.
Basically same time frame. And this one did a markedly better rating, a 3.1. Then last night, the elimination game, Yankees-Indians, did a 5.5 rating. The comparable game the year before, which had been Cubs-Giants, and that was Game 4 of that series, did a 4.7. So even the Cubs, who were doing enormous numbers last year, this game last night did a bigger number. I think the country's into it. I mean, the baseball's been good. It's been very exciting.
Is good. I agree. But you're right.
Series.
Better than last year, where the Cubs were the favorite going in, making a run after 1.2 million years of not winning. I mean, was the story. Now these ratings are better.
Yeah, the ratings are really good. I'm rooting for the Cubs. You know my affinity, obviously, for the city and everything else. So I would like to see them win. But I will feel good for the Nationals if they finally do break through also. Those guys have not had a chance to do it. And it would make for a very intriguing Game 1 of the NLCS, I'll tell you that. If you got Clayton Kershaw against Max Scherzer Saturday night, that would be something else.
You just got to let me know how it all goes, because I'm done watching baseball postseason.
Let me ask a serious question.
Okay.
Because you've never really reacted like a fan in any circumstances. So I know, for example, for me, as a fan, when my team loses, let's use football as a perfect example. If my team plays in the 1 o'clock spot and they lose, if I wasn't working in this job, I would not watch a 4 o'clock game. I would walk away from the television. Maybe not this year. I have a different feeling about it. But generally through my life, I don't want to watch any more football. I don't want to see it. I don't want to do anything. If over the years, if my team gets eliminated in the playoffs, I don't want to watch the rest of it. I have no interest in watching it. There were years I didn't watch the NBA Finals because the Knicks had got knocked. I'm talking about in my childhood, back when the Knicks used to make the playoffs. So now, my question to you is, you obviously will continue watching baseball because you do it for a living. But otherwise, would you just be like, you know what, I don't even want to watch this now?
No,
you wouldn't. You're not that
No, I'm not
hurt.
that. No.
It doesn't pain you.
I maybe over-embellish just
There's no pang. There's no.
Well, I'm bummed they're not in it. I would like to, but I'm still going to watch the other ones. I still love, I want to see a great pitching duel or a great pitcher just throwing lights out or guys knocking the ball over the yard. No, it won't change it at all for me of watching that. There wasn't anything the closest thing that would have been was when my kids were at Notre Dame, and if they were to lose, what that would do for me. But I'd still, now a lot of it was my job. I had to watch the other games as well, but I would feel more bummed about that than really anything else.
Yeah, that one season, the only game they lost, there were no more games.
There were no more games. So that was a tough one to live with the rest, yeah.
And, of course, tonight, what we get? We get the Game 5, which means...
It's all decks on hand, as you know, in a Game 7.
Sure. Right. All decks on hand tonight.
There you go, absolutely.
See how that
right.
turns out. And, by the way, I'm so enjoying the reaction to this picture. Speaking of the Cubs, we posted a picture for our Throwback Thursday today of the two of us opening day Wrigley Field 2000, and I know that because we're holding a sign that says
giveaway. Yeah,
opening day 2000, go Cubs. And I posted this on. Pete sent it to me. Our first producer.
So we're talking this. Our show's 4 months old
at that time.
Right?
Yeah, this would have been the very beginning of April.
Yeah.
So we would have been on the air together basically 3 months. And it's on my Instagram page at ESPN Greeny. And I confirmed with Golic he was okay with me posting it. You look obliterated drunk.
I probably was.
You're definitely not.
You don't think?
You would not have been drunk. No, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. We're on the air.
Was it after our show or during the show?
If it was, it wouldn't have been well after the show. But as we're looking, I'm listening to the laughter in this room. You have to see this. If you're not watching with us on TV right now, if you're listening on the radio, you have to see this picture. You look like a different human being.
Fat,
like there's no
fluffy, big boned.
Well, there's no bones. I mean, I don't see a bone in that face.
Whoa.
The cheeks, Mike, are it's like you look like a blowfish.
I mean, 2000, listen, that was only, 6 years after I was done playing. You hold on to some of your girth.
Well, there's a couple of ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
It's 6 years after you're retired, or it's 6 years after you're retired.
Just 6 years.
Mike, you really
goes by in a blink of an eye.
You were quite.
I was thick,
large.
I was a thickum there,
and you were wearing a shirt. By the way, if you pull out on that shot there, you were wearing a shirt that says Golic 2000.
Oh yeah,
which people had made for us then because we were doing the Golic 2000 campaign to get you on Monday Night Football.
That's exactly right.
So I mean, we
had a lot going on.
Oh, it was so funny and so much fun, and the reaction that we're getting to the picture.
It's a cool picture. So I really want to know if it was after the show and I was hammered, kind of like when we were at Pittsburgh opening day, and
but we weren't on the air at that.
No.
But,
No. If we were on the air here, obviously I wasn't. I mean, I can hide my drinking. So, I mean, that wasn't an issue.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, you do look really, really drunk. Anyway, the picture's up on Instagram. What is it?
No, I was just laughing at you.
It's just a funny picture.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's a really good picture.
Pittsburgh was insane.
Pittsburgh was crazy.
But this one was good, too.
Yeah.
So the picture's up there on Instagram if you want to see it. Mike, we got tweets. What do you got?
I guess somebody didn't really understand what I was saying. Josh says, I agree with Golic as a St. Louis Cardinal fan. The baseball season, if over, who cares? Time to move on. That's not what I said, Josh. I move on and I watch it. I still enjoy it. I'm maybe over-embellished just how monstrous of a fan. I am bummed the Indians lost. Don't get me wrong. But I will watch all the other games without question.
I wouldn't. Once again, if I didn't do this job, I would not. Absolutely not. If I was you, if I was born and raised in Cleveland,
right,
and that was my team, and I lived and died with it, and I was a stockbroker or anything besides a sportscaster, I don't know that I wouldn't watch the game tonight. That's for sure. As thrilling as this Game 5 tonight might be, purely as a baseball fan, I definitely wouldn't watch it. Maybe I'd come back around by the World Series, depending. But I very well might not. These things, they stay with you. I can still remember moments and plays in games the teams I root for lost in my childhood. I remember them like it was yesterday. I remember those games better than you remember games you played in.
No, you do. You're right. And you're absolutely right. And if I were to hold by this, the next game I would watch would be March 29th, which would be opening day for the Indians. I just knew that at the top of my head. I just knew the.
You just checked that,
or somebody said it in my ear. You have this tweet: when you're sick and or have the flu, most athletes perform better due to concentrating more at the task. The person who tweeted this was Dr. Gaber Farkas. Now, it says Dr. Dr. Period. Yeah. Gaber Farkas. We still think he's a doctor just because you do that? I mean, anybody could do that, right?
Anyone could. Anyone's handle could have DR in it.
I'm going to need to see more than that. Gaber.
Are you casting aspersions at him because his name is Farkas?
No, not at all. I'm just wondering.
Curious.
Calling Dr. Farkas, calling Dr. Farkas. Mike and Mike reminding you, if you miss any of the show, including Ty Lue in Hour 4, you can listen to all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. And now you can subscribe to our Best of podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
We have found this Dr. Farkas.
So,
as the rest of the country joins us here, we got a tweet from Dr. Gaber Farkas.
Here's a tweet that says, when you're sick or have the flu, most athletes perform better due to concentrating more at a task. So it's the name is Dr. Gaber Farkas. Now, I'm questioning whether he's a doctor or not, because last I checked, Dr. Dre is not operating on me, okay?
Fair enough.
Okay? I mean,
right?
Is that fair enough or not?
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
So would Dr. Farkas be operating on me? No! He's a chiropractor.
So he wouldn't be operating on you.
No, he wouldn't. But so he's supposed to know that about the concentrating and performing. You learn that in chiropractic school.
I think you do.
Do you really?
Absolutely, and I think that he's right. Historically
speaking,
think
so?
People who are not feeling well, I do think there's something psychologically, and you just sort of here's what you do. You tell me if this makes sense to you.
Okay.
And I'm going to teach you a little something about being an athlete here.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That in a game like this, where all the pressure and everything else might otherwise be getting to you, if you need all of your focus just to kind of get yourself from point A to point B, it might actually psychologically work to your benefit. And I think that's why we see all these legendary sick games. Players play so well sick all the time. Now, again, history doesn't tell the story of the guys who were sick and didn't play. So I'm sure there are just as many stories of that kind.
Right.
But the stories of guys who were sick and,
yes.
and came out and played the games of their lives are the stuff of legend, and I think that's the reason why.
I understand that.
You should apologize to Dr. Farkas.
Is a chiropractor, and which I've been to and I love, but should he be the one? I was expecting a doctor of medicine, okay, to tell me something like this. This is like the scene in Hangover where at the hospital and Stu's looking at the chart. Stu, you're a dentist, okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
a dentist is a doctor,
should
too.
Stu be looking at a medical chart?
Aspersions here unnecessarily.
I'm just saying.
I think you're just doing
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If you have some sort of ailment that needs a surgery, is Dr. Farkas doing it?
No, he's not.
Okay. I mean, if
I have some sort of ailment that needs a surgery, my kid's pediatrician isn't doing it either, but he's a doctor. It's a she in her case.
It's like medical school stuff. Chiropractor, you going? I don't know. Maybe you are.
Why are you taking this out on poor Dr. Farkas?
Just trying to get to the bottom of this.
Poor little Farkas. Isn't that a
poor
Seinfeld
little
episode?
Farkas?
That's what am I thinking of? It's Bizarro Kramer. It's Pincus that I'm thinking of.
I was going to say, is it Farkas?
We're having the stupidest conversation now.
We really are.
I am now having
Dr.
a conversation.
Farkas, I don't mean to. I don't want to belittle what you do, but
you've already done it now.
Okay.
I'm still a little late for that.
Don't you understand what I'm saying, though?
I understand what you're saying.
When a doctor is trying to give you some sort of medical situation, okay, well, it's a doctor. It's chiropractic.
No, that's not nice. I think that Dr. Farkas is well within his rights to be
you think so?
Explaining to you the particulars of the sick games and the flu games.
Okay.
Absolutely. I have great respect for Dr. Farkas.
You do, huh?
I do.
Really?
I don't know why I find that so funny.
Uh-huh.
Where am I getting that from? Oh, Farkas is the Bizarro Kramer. That's who Farkas is. Is the Bizarro Newman. That's it. Farkas. I knew that name from
I'm glad you finally got to the bottom of it.
Okay, let's move on from this, shall we? Let's do some predictions sure to go wrong, shall we?
Yeah.
We got Philadelphia at Carolina tonight. NFL action kicking off week 6. Two really good teams with quarterbacks who are playing great. Cam was playing about as well as he did in his MVP season, at least the last few weeks he has. Carson Wentz, who is coming into his own now, looks like as a terrific young quarterback. Both teams playing well. Panthers are home, and they're a 3.5-point favorite.
Both teams are getting it together really, really well. I like the way Christian McCaffrey is now being used. I think getting into the flow of that offense, two beast receivers that they have, and Cam, running when he has to. But I like the way the Eagles are playing right now, offensively and defensively. As I mentioned, running the ball. I know Lane Johnson is out because that O-line has been coming together really well, and they really started to hurt them when Lane Johnson last year got suspended for 10 games. So that's a little bit of a question mark to me. I know in my picks I picked Carolina, but why should I stick with my picks? I'm going to go with Philadelphia.
Fair enough. Yeah. I like the Eagles tonight also. And then the baseball game tonight, again, we don't have a starting pitcher yet for the Nationals to my knowledge. The expectation is that it'll be Gio Gonzalez with Roark available out of the bullpen if you want. You get Hendricks for the Cubs, who has been money for them. He was very good in Game 1 of the series. He was very good in the playoffs last year. Golic's expectation is?
I think Washington pulls it off. I think they got obviously a monster win. Taylor with the big grand slam to put that game away last night. I think that breathes some new life into them on the brink of being knocked out of this thing to go home and go ahead and win this thing.
I feel like, however, their history of postseason failure will put a very strange air in that ballpark tonight if things start to go badly.
Right.
If Hendricks is dealing early, if the Cubs score a run or two early, then all of a sudden it's a little bit of time, and you can feel that in the building. Sometimes being at home in those circumstances can actually work against a team. I make no bones about it. I'm rooting for Chicago, so I hope the Cubs get the win. And then finally, I will say this. Mm-hmm. If he were available to us right now, I would get an adjustment from Dr. Farkas.
I would too.
I would have Farkas give me an adjustment.
I would get an adjustment, but I have some abdominal pain. I'm not talking to Dr. Farkas, okay?
Sometimes that actually does help. I found
that's not where I'm going. You know what? Once I go to 3 or 4 doctors and we think it's a chiropractic issue, then I'd call Dr. Farkas. Until then, not doing it.
From now on, I will never, ever see a doctor whose name isn't Farkas. So get me the yellow pages.
Do you think he hates us now?
See you tomorrow. Mike and Mike.